Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen. I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw. Played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. Come to you twice a week, talk all things hockey. Of course, we always talk about a lot of other different subjects. I'm going to start, take us to the moon first.
The moon. Okay.
Yeah. Yesterday, I took my grandson, my granddaughter, my daughter went as well, and we went down to the Neil Armstrong Museum, first man to walk on the earth, Wapakoneta, Ohio, only a 2-hour drive from here. And, I feel, Tom, kind of strongly that history is important, and I feel like kind of in the modern world, we don't talk much about history anymore. It's not become a big subject. And, to be honest with you, I sort of get that. Like, technology is more important. And, we were kind of falling behind in the world. And I think now there's a greater emphasis. I have a good friend who's the director of technology for a school district. And, he puts a lot of energy into making sure that his kids graduate from high school with a better understanding of technology. And we see today, 30-year-old people handle computers and cell phones much better than you and I do. But saying all that, I was wondering, I'm older than you, but you were old enough. What do you remember about the man landing on the moon? Was it important to you at the time, or?
It was a big deal. I remember all crowd around the TV. It was the old black and white TVs, 2 channels, and it was. I don't know if I grasped how fantastic it really was at that time.
Yeah.
But you do bring up a good point. I mean, if you ask the average 15-year-old in school who Neil Armstrong was, you think they'd know who it was?
Well, I mean, I've seen some scary surveys where, they ask people just to put into context, or into chronological order, like historical events. And, they really misfire on a lot of important, events that occurred. And, I wouldn't expect people always to get the right years and dates for everything, but certainly, you should be in the right area.
Yeah, I know.
So, so it is interesting. My grandson was 4. What he was curious about was, and it's what sort of prompted this, trip is he's curious about, spacesuits and why you need them. And, and of course,
he's quite the thinker, isn't he? He's the one who was worried about.
Yeah, he is. And he was just really knocked for a loop by the discussion on gravity. My wife said she talked to him about what gravity was, and he just, he struggled to grasp that, but he was certainly fascinated by it.
Do they think about that, what's going on in that little mind, especially somebody that thinks a lot like he does, right? He's trying to figure out, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he's a big question guy, and if he's got one, why do we do this? Why do you say this? And, my oldest daughter, his mother was actually like that. Like, she would, when she was like 4 or 5, like, she understood precedent. Like, she didn't really know kind of what it was, but she used it. Like, she had a really great memory. So if you said, that we're going to do this at all times, and then you didn't do that next time, she'd bring it up to you. She'd say, you said, so she established, look, this is our precedent, and don't be changing the rules on me now.
That's good. I like that. So I feel Jim on the dog situation here in my complex, right?
Yeah.
So I've decided we're not going to be upset about the dog situation. We're going to embrace it. So in my cooking show yesterday, on my little Google Play thing, I had who took the dogs out in the background while I was doing the cooking show. So it got me to so happy. I'm now happy with the sound of dogs. I was dancing during the cooking show yesterday. So
great. Yeah. Great.
Yes. Dancing and cooking, dancing Tom.
Yeah. No, I can see that would, it's better than race. I just had a discussion this morning with someone about, there are always lessons in life. And I do have some hockey stuff to get to, but there's lessons in life. And I remember it happened, and it was actually turned out to be a monumental game. I went to see a baseball game at Comerica Park, and the Detroit Tigers were playing. And Roger Clemens was on the mound, I'm assuming for the Red Sox. It's been so long ago, I can't remember exactly who he was pitching for, but it was his 20 strikeout game. I think that was with the Red Sox still.
Yeah.
Hope I'm not wrong on that. But anyway, I saw that game and I bought the tickets outside. They were box seats by the Tigers dugout. It was an afternoon game, not a big crowd. They were like $25 seats, and I think I got them for 11 each. And I had a friend visiting from out of town in Colorado. I think my wife was along as well. And I felt pretty good about getting these $25 box seats for $11. And a guy plunks down next to me. And he said, "Did you buy your seats off a guy outside?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was a little leery about it." And I said, "Well, I mean, they looked legitimate and everything else." He said, "Yeah, but yeah, what a deal, eh?" He said, $5 for a ticket. And, and I was a little irritated by the fact that I paid 11 and that he paid 5. And, I mean, irritated might be strong, but, I mentioned that, geez, what a dunderhead I was for not trying to negotiate.
We look at the positive side of it, though. They were face value of $25. You got
that's the point I was going to make. Another friend that was with me at the time, he said, "Hey, where are you?"
Susan's on it.
Red Sox. Good. Thanks. Susan's all on top of it. So, thank heavens her memory is not as bad as mine is getting.
I bet she doesn't even use the computer. I bet she actually.
No, I'm sure she doesn't. But anyway, I started to think about that, and he just said, if you're happy with your deal and what you did, why should you not, be happy for this guy that got even a better deal? Yeah. Yep. And, even though, I was an adult at the time, it wasn't that long ago, right. I've always kind of remembered that. And if I ever start down that path, and it happens all the time, and we're talking about it now, and, and I'm not going to make this a political issue, but just as an example, there are people talking about they're going to forgive $10,000 of student debt. Mm-hmm. And there are people who are opposed to that simply because, I paid mine. Right. I paid mine. And, they can't, they're like me at that moment, although I've tried to be better since then. Yeah. They can't just be happy with what their situation is. They don't want the other guy to get a good deal. So
we have that conversation all the time about the money that players are making now in the National Hockey League too.
Yeah, so it's very similar. Yeah.
So my first year in the league, I had $25,000 signing bonus and $60,000. The most I ever made was, I think, $330,000.
Right.
And so if I played today, what would I be, like a $5 million player or something like that? Would I? $5 million a year, 4 or 5?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I say to it, but I said, well, I got divorced twice. So my ex-wife's first ex-wife would have got half. The next wife would get half of the other half, and then I'm left with a quarter. So really, I'm happy.
Yeah. No. And all that makes sense. And I have met former players who go both ways. I have met people who just have a good attitude and say, "Hey, I'm happy for them." Yeah. I was at the wrong time, but when I was making $300,000, I was feeling pretty good about it.
Absolutely, that's true. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he goes, but I've met other players that are bitter about it.
Yeah.
That I had to work. I still, I don't have the pension. Those guys are set for life. You hear both, both ways on it. So, and it's always, kind of a struggle for people.
I guess I'm lucky too. Like I've loved my life since I played, and I love playing. It was fantastic. But I've loved my life just as much, if not more, since I played, because of all the things I've got to do. Being an agent, doing all the experiences I got there, and then all the stuff I'm doing now. So, I'm with you. But you're right though. There's a lot of players that are bitter. Yeah, and again, I don't know what good that's going to do them being bitter. I can't do much about it now. So,
no. Although I've always wanted for the league and the Players Association to work a little harder. Although they've done a much better job, I think, in recent years of identifying the players in need. And
we're friends with Ron Grescher's more friends. I'm friends with him as well, but for a former football player, and he's told us what his pension is and how it's been renegotiated a couple of times that the Players Association renegotiated for him. So, our Players Association, this, and our owners both put in millions of dollars a year into a fund with the alumni for guys. So they do some things, but I'm with you. I wish they would do more, but at the same time, I think, okay, well, we didn't do anything when I was part of the Players Association for the players before me. I was just concentrating on playing.
But were you asked?
Nope, never was.
Well, that's that's the thing. Like back then, you didn't even think about that, and you weren't making like your pay was, more in line with the world than today. Like it's hard for, like I think back when you were playing, a Wall Street guy could relate to your pay.
Yep.
Like maybe you got more than him, but you were in the same area code.
Absolutely.
Where today, I think it's hard for the average person.
Yeah.
To really relate to players that.
Look at some of these football contracts too. Is picked with quarterbacks in 40.
Yeah, those are. Don't forget, those are not guaranteed, with few exceptions.
Right, you're right. The majority, but the guys that are making that money, typically those are guaranteed, those contracts, right? Because
it's interesting. I watched Hard Knocks, the program. They have the Detroit Lions on there, and people in Detroit. There's been a buzz about the Lions being involved in that. And because the Lions, I've mentioned it before, one playoff win in my lifetime, and I'm 66 years old. So, that's really, you talk about some bad history. But so, the fans are kind of excited about this new coach and how it's working and so forth. But there's one scene in it which really struck me, and that is they had their number one draft pick, Aiden Hutchinson. Go up and you don't sing your college song anymore. You just sing any song.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to start off by saying what was your draft number, and then what your signing bonus was.
Oh, is this part of the initiation process?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, he got up and sang a song. I mean, it was terrific. It was just a fun song. It was just a pop song, and he sang it out and had it down, had some moves. He just had it going, and the other one of the ones that went after him just did a dance. He was a Hispanic heritage player, and he did sort of a Latin salsa piece and so forth. But anyway, when he got to his point where he said, "And my signing bonus was 23 mil," that's what he called it, and the people just cheered him.
Is that right?
Yes, for saying that, and I thought, that's what you want to see. I mean, you want to see that, when teammates are just happy for how much money that you're getting. So, that's his real dollar value, because you have a 10-year contract in the NFL and they get tired of you. Sorry, Charlie, you're gone. It's not a guaranteed contract. So it doesn't work that way. So as you said, what's real is the bonus money. That's real. Yes. And his is 23 million. So
pretty good. I didn't know they did that. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought it was kind of cool. But anyway, it was a fun deal. But anyway, let's move on to hockey.
Yeah, okay.
I got off on the. So I wanted to talk about. First of all, let's talk about Stanley Cup. Nazem Kadri took it to a mosque, and I just see that as just put one more check mark on all the different places it's been.
Yeah.
It's not the Cup's first religious experience. It's been to a Catholic mass. It's been part of baptism ceremonies. Even this summer, Jack Johnson's used it as part of a baptismal. So it's certainly been involved. It's like I said, it's not the Cup's first religious experience. But people took note of that. And some people said, why are you making a big deal about it? I didn't think actually anyone did make a big deal about it, other than just like when the Niedermeyers took it on top of a mountain, we took note of that. Whenever someone does something different, and that's part of it now. Yeah. Like, you want to win the Cup, and then you want to take that Cup and take it somewhere where it hasn't been, and maybe push the envelope a little bit, push that down the ball down the road a little bit.
So let me ask you, when you were that age, if you'd won the Stanley Cup, where would you take it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, now it's become, and it's still great, but I think it's now just standard operating procedure. Everybody takes it to where they played youth hockey. Yeah. And that's sort of where I would think that you got to start. Yeah. The cool places that I've seen, I was actually followed Bob Hartley around once. I just did a story of all the places he took it. He filled it up with ice cream. He took it to a factory where he used to work, and those people loved it. Just loved it. Right. And then he took it to, and now this is terrible, but I can't remember whether it was his mother or his father had passed away. He took it to the cemetery.
Oh, wow.
As well, and that has become That's happened, multiple times. So, I'm sure I would have taken it to my hometown.
Sure.
When I was growing up in Wayne, Michigan, I just couldn't wait to get out. And then as I've gotten older, I'm proud of that town. It's part of who I am. So I've learned, I have a different attitude about my hometown than I had when I was, and I did leave. I got an apartment. I graduated in like June of '74 from high school, and a week later I was living elsewhere in an apartment. So,
All right.
I got out of Dodge. So
yeah, I definitely would have taken it back home. We had sold the farm by then. But the farm meant so much to me. Although I don't know if I appreciate how much the farm meant to me when I was playing. It's later on in life, like now I realize all the things that I learned growing up on the farm. But I definitely would have taken it back home so my parents could have seen it. And I'd like to take it to my junior rink, and particularly the coach, my Rick Hay, the junior coach, because that was some really formative years for me as a person and as a player. And then obviously you got to take it up to Northern Michigan as well.
Yeah,
might have a few cold beers in that sucker up there in Marquette.
Yeah, that's drinking out of the cup is another of the standard operating.
Yeah, that's almost too easy, right? That's
yeah. But it's had Lucky Charms in it, and I believe the late Clark Gillies fed his dog out of it.
Right, and they fed a horse out of it too, didn't they?
Yeah, Eddie Olchuk. Although that was a staged photo.
Oh,
it was staged photo. It's been a bait bucket. That was Joey Kosher, and I know all this because I've written a book about all the weird things. It's
wasn't
been
it found in the morning in the bottom of a pool someplace too?
Well, yeah. Actually, the title of my book is "Why Is the Stanley Cup in Mario Lemieux's Pool?"
Oh,
and that is a tremendous story. It's one of my favorite stories.
Okay.
He being Phil Bork, no relation to Ray, stood up. Mario has a waterfall that is by his pool, and the water just cascades down. But you can climb up on the waterfall, and Phil did, and like he was King Kong, he raised it over his head and he threw it in the pool.
Oh,
and it formed a suction on the bottom of the pool, and it stuck there, and they had trouble getting it out. Now it weighs 33 pounds.
Right.
So they had people just diving down, the best swimmers, and trying to get it up. They couldn't. So they formed diving teams. And there were 3 or 4 of them. And they go down, and they finally got it up, but the thing was kind of twisted and bent. And if you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins video from the 1991 Stanley Cup parade, whenever they're holding it up, they're hanging onto that top with dear life because it was just sort of hanging there. Like they've had to do so many repairs.
Right.
Now, my best repair story was Joey Kosher. When he got it, he has never revealed who had it before him.
Right.
But when he got it in his time, when the Rangers had won, and this is one of the early, they didn't start this until then. But when Joey got it, the bowl was apart from the actual,
I'd like to know the story behind that.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I've interviewed Joey about this, and he has steadfastly refused to say who had it before him.
Okay.
But anyway, so he took it out, and he knew some solder guys, and they got the proper solder, the silver solder, and they soldered it back together. Now, it was enough that he was able to go fishing with it, but I'm sure they had to send it back and get a real proper repair on it. But it's had to be repaired several times. They usually have to ding it out, but now they're a lot more careful with it. There's a keeper of the cup that accompanies it, and there are more rules. There used to be, like when the Capitals did it, they started doing keg stands with it, and they asked him whether they could just not do keg stands. Like they loved the Capitals' passion.
It appears that in the past it was a lot more reckless, right? They didn't care if they damaged enough, and now it seems like that's not the case. The guy is a little bit more.
Well, they just ask you to be careful, and there's always been rules. Like, and now there's it's been in strip clubs, but now you can't take it into a strip club.
You can't take it in strip clubs?
No strip clubs anymore.
That's not
anymore. It's already been there. The cup's been there.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's grown up now too. It's grown up.
It has grown up, and they don't allow you. It's been in multiple pools, but not anymore.
Oh, okay.
They don't want it in the pool. So they ask you not to do that. And I know a story. It was in my book that Dominik Hasek violated the rules and almost lost his cup privileges. If it was Jaromir Jagr, not Jaromir Jagr, excuse me, Jiri Sligo. Jiri Sligo saved the day. Jiri Sligo came to the keeper of the cup and said, look, I know you're mad at, it was Dominik Hasek who had taken it into poison. I know you're mad at Dom, but we have 30,000 people in a square in Prague, and we're headed there. Put me in charge of it, and I will guarantee you that nothing will happen to this cup. It's not going anywhere. No one's going to be reckless with it. And he says, I'm not going to let anybody get it. It'll just be me, but we'll have the cup in Prague. He said, I won't let Dom have it. And he was very sincere about it. And the keeper of the cup told me that, he was so taken by Slager's, saying that he would take care of it, that he said, okay, go ahead. Otherwise, there would have been no cup for that celebration in the city center in Prague. So
how about with Tampa won the Super Bowl and Tom Brady threw the trophy from one place to another? Man, if he didn't miss that, it'd go it'd sink down to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, well, then there would have been real diving teams to go out there. Now, and it's not even in the same ballpark, but I think now, finally, don't you think that the MLB World Series trophy is at least recognizable?
Yeah.
And the Super Bowl one, I think, too, has become so. But, it's still not even, in terms of history, it's not even close.
Isn't that true? The Stanley Cup is so cool, too. And to be clear, there's a Stanley Cup that travels around. Then there's another Stanley Cup that is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, correct?
But it's the other way around. The real cup goes to the players. That's the real one.
It is, okay.
Yeah, they have decreed that you work too hard to get a replica for the cup. So the decision was made that the real cup goes out to the players, and this decision was made in the mid-1990s.
Right.
Actually,
so as it goes on, obviously they run out of space, so they add new rings. They take old rings off.
Take old rings off.
Right.
Yeah.
So they take the oldest ones off at the bottom and then add new ones onto the top.
That's correct.
And what happens to the old rings? Where does that? Is that going?
Well, they're on display, but they're no longer on the cup.
Right.
So if you go, you can see it. I think. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think the intention originally was to make sure you displayed those, but I don't know what they're running out of room. Pretty soon. There was a great Kurt Vonnegut book that he wrote about that. In the future, they just ran out of room, so they had to get rid of all museums, and they commissioned a guy to sum up history in one sentence because they just had no more room to sentence. It was a great concept for a book. So anyway,
interesting. Dallas Drake, when he won it in Detroit, they had it at some bar someplace, and I really can't remember who the player was. I probably should mention his name if I did, but he dropped the cup or something and broke it or did something to it. And the guys really got on him too. They were mad at him for doing it. It wasn't.
Yeah. Well, there's, it's been broken several times. Yeah. And I think they sort of understand that it's going to happen. And it goes back each year to a jeweler who makes sure that it's ready to go for the next year. And then it goes back. The real cup then goes back to the Hall of Fame, and the replica is put in storage. And then when they win, the real cup goes to the players on its world tour. It's now been in more than 25 countries.
Right.
Too.
And the damages are part of the history of it too, right? It's part of the lore of,
Well, it was lost one time. Guy Lafleur stole it once. Late Guy Lafleur.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't know where it was. He just took it because no one was paying attention, and he wanted, I don't remember the particulars, but he wanted to take it somewhere. He did. It was in Mike Barnett's trunk. Another time when it was lost, nobody would quite remember what had happened to it because, it wasn't as big a thing in the early years as it became. I remember, and I've told this story before, I'm not sure on this podcast, but in the late 80s, they put it on display in Edmonton at the Westin Hotel. And they just had it surrounded by ropes, and like a 14-year-old kid, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but a young man just kind of stood there, and people walked by and said, "Oh, there's the cup." It wasn't, now they line up, for hours, and there's 500 people in line, but back then it didn't have the same pizzazz and reputation that it now has. And I remember Tom McMillan, who ended up being the vice president of the Pittsburgh Penguins in communications, but he was a writer then. He and I would like to say we walked, but we might have stumbled home from the Sherlock Holmes bar, home being the Westin Hotel during the Stanley Cup final. And it was early in the morning or late at night, depending on your perspective.
Nice.
And we stopped the 14-year-old guy and asked him whether we could inspect the cup. And he said, yeah, go ahead. So we moved it over to this chair, this two big chairs, and we looked at it and the names and all that kind of stuff. And we spent, I don't know, 20 minutes or so just kind of staring at all the things and talking about the guys that we knew and all that kind of stuff. You couldn't do that now, I mean, it was just the time, So, it's completely different. One other thing I was going to mention, too, that the cup has been part of a wedding proposal. Andre Roy, I think it was, the tough guy, he proposed to his wife in a helicopter ride with the cup with the late Guy Lafleur.
Is that right?
Helicopter pilot.
Very good thinking.
Yeah. So it's had some cool trips. I think that the Niedermeyer trip on the mountain is one of my favorite stories, and they've had a request for skydiving that was not allowed. They said no, you can't do it. That I think I think for sure it's been water skiing. I'm not sure they would allow that anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
But
and as most people know, you know this. When you're a player, you can't touch the cup.
Right.
If you don't win it, you can't touch it. So I've never touched the Stanley Cup until I was representing Warren Reichel, and he was playing for Colorado when they beat Florida and won the cup. I wanted to get my picture taken with Warren. I've got it here someplace, but I had to wait. That was a late game, and it went in overtime. And Uwe Krupp scored the game-winning goal. And so it wasn't until like 3 or 4 in the morning that I was able to get in the locker room to get my picture taken with the trophy. That was a big deal. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, the rule says that if you win the cup, you can have anybody you want touch it, hold it.
Right.
I'm not sure I really like that rule, but I understand it. I mean, like if you especially immediate family, you're going to do that, but it seems troublesome. And maybe I'm just being elitist. I shouldn't be, but like when you have,
touch it?
Pardon me?
That anybody could touch it?
Well, that you can lift it over your head.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, you're having a backyard barbecue, and then, no player will touch it. And then you have your neighbor who really doesn't.
I think that's part of the thing, that we're this separate group, right?
So
we're held to a higher standard or something. I think that's part of that's how I've viewed it before. So
Well, anyway, I can see that you are a special. You're shamed because you didn't win it. So
it's part of it. Yeah, you've got to earn the right to touch through. But you're right. Now that I think about it, you're right. So some other guy that hasn't earned the right to hold the cup gets.
Well, and what I'm bothered by is, in that case, maybe it's a neighbor who really doesn't even follow hockey.
Yeah. Right.
So he stumbles in. He's had 2 beers, and he says, "Hey, look, I got the cup. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking.
I really never thought about it that way before, but I get your point. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm overthinking it, as usual. So, all right, let's. I want to talk a little bit about most improved teams. We talked a little bit last time about how much I liked Carolina. Signing Stastny and everything but I saw the NHL Network did the Atlantic Division, and they put the Detroit Red Wings second to last in one of them. I think it was Mike Johnson who did that, and then I think Rupp had him 6th.
Right.
And it made me think about how we see what Ottawa did, because they're one of the teams that did a lot. Alex Springcat. They've got Claude Giroux. They've got Cam Talbot. And, contrast that and whether it really makes a difference. So let's start there. What are your thoughts? I mean, we saw Steve Yzerman change about 1/3 of his roster. 2 new guys. We have Andrew Kopp, who's going to join their top 6. We've got David Perron, who's going to join their top 6. We have Dominic Kubalik, who's a candidate to join their top 6, but may end up in their top 9. And then they got a number one goalie, or at least a tandem guy, and Billy Huso.
Mhm.
And then with Ottawa, we have, as I mentioned, Giroux, DeBrincat, Cam Talbot, and I think there's some others too that they've added. Somebody on Hamonic on defense, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is Stahl? Sorry to jump around a bit. Is Stahl still in Detroit, or is she gone?
No, he's gone. He's with Florida.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, and they added a defenseman too. They added Ben Sherratt.
That's right too. Yes. I'd say I like what Steve Yzerman. Maybe I just believe in Steve Yzerman a lot. Right? If he's saying that this is going to work, that this is the next step for us, I just believe him. He's had such a history there in Tampa that all he did there. The whole thing with Seider drafting him, how so many other people are thinking, geez, why did he draft him? And now he ends up being like, and that's just him getting started. So all those players you talked about are added to the team, plus a player like Seider and all the other young players now get better by a year or two. So that's improving the team as well. I really do like Detroit. I was somewhat surprised, although I liked what he did to add those veteran players, because obviously when you're doing that, you are taking away space from the young kids. But maybe what I like too is you're not allowing that team to be, like the Edmonton Oilers were maybe years ago, where they had all those top picks, but then they weren't winning it all. So now those kids were growing up in that losing environment. So I like what he's done. So
yeah, do you think they're a playoff team?
I think they're going to fight for a playoff spot, and if they stay healthy, they could make the playoffs. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think I agree with you. I like the aggressiveness of it. I'm a little bit curious that he really has not left any spots for the younger players. I mean, he actually has more NHL proven players than he actually has roster spots, but he has longer term injuries that they're going to be dealing with. Fabre is going to be out to start the season, and they've got a couple of other guys too that are going to be banged up. So I think they're sort of counting on that, and you can almost project that when those guys will be back and ready to go, they probably will have other injuries.
Yeah. Do you think Perron is this? Do you think Perron's still a top six forward?
Oh yeah.
You do.
Well, he had 11 power play goals last year. He had 27 goals last year. Yeah. So don't you think he is? Or
I don't think he's quite a top six forward anymore. I think he's the seventh or eighth guy, so he's going to be on the third line. But
that's a lot of goals for a third line guy.
Yeah. But you think about it too, that most coaches want to play, pretty much, three lines for sure, and most of them want to go with four lines. So your third and second line is really, I guess, you're splitting hairs, really, right? I mean,
there's still playing time disparity there. There's at least 3 minutes or so in power play. If you're on the third, I mean, there are some third liners that do get power play time for sure, but not all that many. It's mostly if you think about it, there are 6 forwards, and although now everybody is playing
4 forwards in the
power play. Forwards. Yeah.
Totally. So he could still be a third line guy and still get power play time. Yeah.
I think it's hard to be a third line guy though and get 27 goals. So third line guys are getting 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So, so anyway, but I have them like maybe fighting for that 5th spot, maybe being closer than they were to the Bruins. I still think the Bruins are going to get that 4th spot, although there are people who keep pointing out that, McAvoy will not start the season. Brad Marchand will not start the season.
That's right.
Bergeron's coming off an injury, although he's going to be ready. But, you don't know. There's a difference between ready and, in perfect peak 100% ready to go, We've talked about this before. When you come back from an injury, you come back in 4 to 6 months, but I always feel you're not really at full strength for a year.
I agree totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. People are thinking maybe the Bruins are vulnerable. But I think, they've got other parts there that, certainly could sort of carry them, Krejci being back. I think they're still there. So I don't have the Red Wings making the playoffs. I'll tell you who I like just a little bit better. They didn't make as many moves, though, as what Ottawa did, because they brought in impact guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, DeBrincat, you know, I mean, he scored 40 goals twice in his first 6 years. He's averaging 32 goals, excuse me, in 5 years. He's averaging 32 goals in his first 5 seasons.
Is he? Oh,
32 goals.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that many. Wow.
Yeah, he has scored a ton of goals. Like this is, you know, and I've said this to people, this is like Patrick Kane 2.0. Like he is scoring like Patrick Kane starting his career.
Why did they want to trade him?
I have no idea. To me, this is going to be like O'Reilly in Buffalo, where they just made up their mind. It was time to get rid of him. Now he said he wanted out, but they never made any effort to smooth things over. At least I didn't feel like they did.
That's a good player. She's a fairly young player. I know they want to rebuild, but he's still young enough to be part of the rebuild. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't get that at all. But I like the fact that Brincat and then Claude Giroux. I mean, I watched him after he went to Florida, and I was just so impressed. Like really? He can really play still, you know, and especially with better players.
And he's a character player too. He's got a lot of
Giroux can play. And he can be an edgy guy, and you know, so those are two guys that are really going to change that team. You know, like their top 6. I mean, it's great. They got Brady Tkachuk too. Like Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, he's
he's like his brother. Yeah. You know, he can be mean, he can be skilled. So I like that. And then you know, their goaltending. Cam Talbot has been a solid goaltender. Now I get that Minnesota didn't seem to have faith in him, but
it wasn't that they didn't have faith, or they just believed in the chance to get Marc-Andre Fleury. You just not pass that up, right?
Right. Yeah. I think you can read it like that and not really be wrong. So anyway, but I don't know that they're ready to make the playoffs either. They're still like, when you look at their roster, once you get beyond 7th forward and 3rd defenseman, you're going,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like what they've done, but I just don't think they're ready yet. Yeah.
I don't think there's enough there.
Yeah. Susan asked, I know we're bouncing around here. Susan asked a good question here. Why did I choose number 2? It was interesting when I saw you pop up with that, Susan. So no, I never thought about changing it. I don't think this jersey sales are really going to go up. Tom Law changed his jersey number, but so I was number 2 in college, and I was having a good training camp, and I think I remember they first gave me number 2 to wear in preseason games. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, so that's when I got it. I did change my number when I got to LA, wore number 3. Somebody was there, Redmond, I think, was there wearing number 2. He then got traded, and they asked me if I wanted to switch back to number 2. I just stayed with number 3. So that's a good question.
Yeah, it's interesting because number changes and numbers in general are a much bigger deal now than they were then. Yeah, much bigger deal. Like we see that you know, now as I'm writing for Detroit Hockey Now, and we did it again last year. We did a story as soon as the numbers were made available. Within, you know, half hour, we had the story up because the Red Wing fans want to know what numbers the new players are wearing. Oh. And this year, I mean, there was 7 or 8 new players, so we got it up even faster. As soon as they appeared up, you know, we made sure we had that information out there because the people want them. And, you know, it has to do with, you know, people get jerseys of their favorite players and they want to order them, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's really a big deal. And I noticed too, Phil Kessel changed, obviously, because they already had an 81. He changed to 8, and that was a big story in Vegas. Yeah. Big story, you know.
What do you think Brian Leetch was thinking when he got number 2 after I wore it? He was thinking, geez, I hope I can fill the shoes, like Tom Laidlaw's shoes.
I'm sure he felt that, Tom. You know, I'm sure. I love the stories now where, you know, guys give you something for changing it. And, you know, if it's a better player coming aboard, usually the player just offers it up. Yeah. But sometimes sometimes the new players just want to make a change, you know, like, you know, I was this number for that team, but, you know, this is a different experience for me. So let me wear a different number.
I'd like to think. So I had number 2. And let's say a player got traded and he wanted number 2 and I was wearing it. I don't know how I'd react to that. Like if he came and asked me to change it. That's interesting.
Huh. I think it depends on who it was.
Yeah, very true.
If it was Jack Eichel, no.
So if Wayne Gretzky got traded and he wanted number 2, I think I'd So,
Yeah, I think it would depend on who it was for you.
Speaking of Eichel, I'm seeing here that he's expecting a big season. He's back healthy and
Yeah, he feels good. He
Yeah.
feels good. You know, like,
He's-
and you know that just speaks to what you and I have talked about before. About there's a difference between a return date and then when you're 100% ready. Like he came back, he was ready to go. He played, but you know,
Yep.
so you know, there's always. I know. Again, I'm going to quote Hard Knocks, but it's just fresh. I just saw it a couple days ago, but I thought he said something that was certainly true in hockey that I've heard hockey guys tell me forever. In training camp, he said, you know, this is the best you're going to feel, you know, in a long time. So let's take advantage of it because you know you're going to start feeling terrible as we move forward because we're going to play games and you're going to get beat up and you're going to bruise it. Same thing with players. I mean, I've had players tell me for years that one of the advantages of a long-term injury is you come back 3/4 of the way of the season, everybody in the league is beat up except for you.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, very true.
Like no one's banged on you for 4 to 6 months, so you know you don't have as many bruises.
Well, so with Eichel, then, what do you think you went through his stats? What is he? An average like a 25?
He averages 27 goals per year when he's been healthy.
Okay, so so our over under is 27 goals then?
Oh, I would say he'll be a 30-goal scorer.
Okay, well, I've got to go the other way then. So he's going to be under 27.
Yeah, I think he'll be a 30-goal scorer. I mean, he's going to get the best players for sure. And we'll see how that goes. It'll be interesting to see, and it's going to be fun to see what Phil Kessel does there. Because they had no one in really to.
Oh, I'm missing something. You mentioned he signed in Vegas. In Vegas.
In Vegas, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that one. Oh, I missed that entirely.
Yeah, $1.5 million. So again, I think this is a deal. Cap Friendly put out a real fun statistic. If he gets 52 points again, they always do a top 25 terms of value contract points, and if he gets 52 points again, it'll be $28,000 a point, which based on this past season statistics would put him in the top 25 best bargains.
Well, is that
Because
right?
he had 52 points.
He has no bonuses. He's not 35.
I don't think he did.
Yeah, I don't think he's 35 yet, is he?
I don't think he is. I think he's 33, 34. But anyway, he's here's the thing too that'll shock you. I just looked this up. His like, who do you like better, Pavelski or Phil Kessel?
I'm not a huge Pavelski guy. Not that I don't like him. It's not that I don't like him. I just don't think he's as great as everybody else is. I don't see this great leadership that everybody talks about too. Now, maybe I'm missing something. So I'm going to go with ability to.
Well, what do you base on? You don't see leadership. I mean, have you been in the dressing room?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, but everybody talks about what a great leader he is, and
Are you just basing it on the fact that they don't win when he's leading?
It could be it. Yeah.
I think you are. I think you're just saying, well, if you're such a great leader, why don't you win?
Well, yeah, I look at San
I
Jose.
don't actually. By the way, I don't actually believe that works. So.
But
I mean, I think leadership helps. But
I watched the document or feature on him or something, and they're acting like he was Mark Messier, and I was like, I don't see that. It's not that I don't like him. I just think he's a good player.
Yeah.
So I would take Phil Kessel actually as far as scoring points.
Wow, that's amazing. They're very similar statistics.
Oh.
I looked it up, and they're about 50 or 60 games apart. Pavelski has more goals, like 423. And Kessel has like 399, somewhere in there. And but Kessel has more points, 50 or 60 more points. So, but I was surprised that they were very similar in their numbers. So, and they're I think they're the among the active leaders. I'm trying to think, is there anybody else? There must be. I must be.
Bergeron up there? Is he up there? Patrice Bergeron? Patrice Bergeron, is he up there for points?
He was not an American. I was going for American.
Oh, American, sorry.
Yeah. But so anyway, I think that was a good signing for Vegas. I knew somebody was going to get a bargain on that. I was urging people to do that. I thought the Islanders should have done that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like,
so the Islanders have really done nothing then all summer long, right?
I don't. Yeah. No. Well, they did one thing. They signed Romanoff, and that's not insignificant.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be a very popular player. I don't know how close, our viewers have watched him, but he was a fan favorite in Montreal. You know, he'll make a big hit. He's got skill. He's a very passionate player. There's a lot to like about him. So he's not insignificant, but that doesn't change the fact that it feels like Lou, you know, I don't want to say he did nothing. Actually, I have kind of said that, but he really hasn't done close to enough.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and if all the stories are true, he was trying to do a lot of things, right?
yeah, he was. And, you know, I guess I should just, I mean, because, you know, you can't, you know, it's one of Dale Talon once explained it to me. He says, you know, depending on where you're at, but he said, when I was in Florida, you know, he was in Florida when he's telling me this. He went, you know, said, you know, if I don't get anyone, you know, the media rides me for that. And then if I overpay, which I have to do to get people, he said they ride me for that.
Oh, yeah.
So what is it that they want me to do? Do you
Yeah.
want me to get players or not? Because if I want players, I got to overpay because that's the only way they're coming to Florida. So,
Yeah. Very true.
you know, it's a bit of a struggle. Anyway, we've prattled on probably too long again, but we appreciate everyone tuning in and putting up with us. And hopefully you will keep coming back on Wednesday. If you want to read me, DetroitHockeyNow.com and HockeyBuzz.com.
And if you'd like to listen to the radio version of the show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.